Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Minions, The Rise of Gru. I was not excited about this film. I thought that the last Minions movie was very grating and overbearing, and besides the Minions, didn't really put a whole lot of effort into the rest of the film, and I was really worried. But going into this sequel, I was pleasantly surprised, and this didn't quite get me to where the first Despicable Me or the second one did, but it definitely got me a lot closer to that than it did with the previous Minions film. And I think that's a good thing, because there's a lot more heart and connection in this film than in that previous Minions film, which the Minions are funny, or grating, depending on who you are, and work a lot better in smaller roles. And that's not to say that this film isn't chock full of Minions. It really is. And this does really feel like a prequel to Despicable Me and a setup for Gru to see who Gru would become in the original Despicable Me films. There's a couple of small cameos from Dr. Nefario, and you have Will Arnett's character from the bank, Mr. Perkins. You have Steve Coogan's Silas Ramsbottom, who is the head of like the anti-villain league, and you have some of those elements that are there, and Gru's mom. But what this film really is about is you have this talisman that gives the power of the Zodiac on midnight of Chinese New Year, and you have the Vicious Six trying to get it, and they oust their leader and founder, who is Wild Knuckles, played by Alan Arkin. And Alan Arkin winds up trying to get this talisman. Gru tries to get it, wants to join the Vicious Six, and the Vicious Five want to get this talisman, and where the hell it is, and plot-wise, this film is all over the place. There's tons of subplots going on, and even for an hour and 27-minute film, it just feels overstuffed. But it's moving a mile a minute and never slows down. So I guess that's how they crammed an hour and 27-minute film with so much content. But I think a lot of these things feel undercooked. But what does work, I feel like, you do have the interactions between our three main minions, all voiced by Pierre Coffin, who voices all the minions, and them trying to prove themselves the Gru, which I think is nice. And seeing Gru doing a montage earlier in the film of all of his like kid villainy was a lot of fun. And I think Illumination does a great job in small doses of montages. And I feel like they should probably make more short films than like feature-length films, because I feel like most of their films are just a montage that really, really works well, and then a poorly conceived movie wrapped around it. I'm looking at you, Secret Life of Pets. But this film has the Minion trio, but also has Gru building this connection with Wild Knuckles. And the back and forth and like the father-son dynamic that starts to develop brings some heart to this film, and I appreciated that aspect of the film. And it's a lot more emotion and resonance than anything in that first Minions film, which is why I appreciate this as a sequel, building and bettering that first film. And you know, there's some fun action in it too. Honestly, the action is a lot of fun, does some quirky and weird crazy things. I wish the trailer didn't give away all of it, but it does for the most part. And you do have elements of like, Wild Knuckles actually has some depth. Like, he's really trying to find community among his villains, and he keeps getting double-crossed and can't find that loyalty that he wants to find. And he finds it in that connection with Gru, which is special and actually works. And there's even a little bit of emotional moments towards the end of the film. Now, the other members of this Vicious Six, which Vicious Five, I guess, because they're trying to recruit another one, Taraji P. Henson as Bell Bottom is the only one that really gets a whole lot to do and say, but like, it's still not a lot, and there's not a whole lot of depth. Everybody else is completely wasted. You have Jean-Claude Van Damme as Jean-Claude, and Dolph Lundgren as Vengeance, and Danny Trejo as Stronghold, and Lucy Lawless as Nunchuck, and none of them have any substance at all, and are just cool designs and puns. And that's it. And that's really disappointing because all the main antagonists in this film are completely forgettable. And that's a shame because I feel like that's what the Despicable Me movies are about. Is they have fun villains. Vector is annoying and obnoxious. And El Macho. Just love El Macho. And even like Trey Parker's character, the 80s child star turned supervillain, is like the most interesting aspect of the third Despicable Me movie. Here, it just feels like they didn't put in any effort to the antagonist, and that's one of the biggest glaring continuations from the first Minions film, is that the antagonist is completely flat and has no substance. And it's basically like, here's a MacGuffin, chase it! And there's a whole bunch of, like, there's another Minion who's on a other subplot and throwing a whole bunch of other things, and it's overstuffed. It doesn't always work, but at least it has some spirit and some heart to it, and a lot of fun action. And honestly, there's a decent amount of laughs that you get from the Minions themselves. And, you know, just having Alan Arkin and Steve Carell doing their thing ever since Get Smart, I'm a fan of. So I appreciate that dynamic. So there's some things to really enjoy. There's things that are perfectly forgettable. And almost forgot to talk about Michelle Yeoh, who Master Chow does all the karate stuff that gets completely spoiled everything in the trailer. She doesn't get a whole lot to do except spout exposition, but I love Michelle Yeoh, and she does it great. And that's part of like the fun action comedy elements that are some of the better things about this film, even as the Minions try to find their center and become karate masters. Because this film does a nice job of spoofing James Bond films with a nice Bond opening, and then spoofing some kung fu films from the 70s as well. So those are some fun elements too. Almost forgot them, but worth saying. But in general, I think this is fun. I think there's enough in it to have an enjoyable time, especially the kids are going to love it, but even adults I think will find their moments too. But those are my thoughts on Minions: The Rise of Gru. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. Thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.